Hi everyone. Okay, today we are making socks. Now, socks are pretty straightforward. The only slightly complicated thing is working the heel. And it's not that complicated if you do it step by step. So, we're back on my little 24 peg loom. I'm going to be using this for the next few videos because, you know, it's a little loom, but you can do absolutely loads with it. So, loads of little projects. So we're going to start by making our slip knot. And we're going to do just a very basic cast on. You can E-wrap, you can U-wrap. It's totally up to you. Put a little slip knot on there. Now, I forgot on the last video to explain the difference between an E-wrap and a U-wrap. And I know some people don't know what they are. It's just use these stitches so much I forget to explain. Okay. Basically, an E-wrap is where you bring the yarn behind a peg and twist it round. Bring it behind the peg and twist it round. And that whole little process of a little captive loop there, that is an E-wrap. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of these. I'm using 2 strands of DK yarn, which you can see there. You can just use chunky yarn. I use DK yarn a lot, so I always have it. So yeah, do occasionally get chunky yarn, but you can have fun with the colour variants and stuff as well, and mix and match colours. So okay, so once you E-wrap, you all the way around. Then we're just going to push this down. To get the stitches to the bottom. And I say I'm going to do this whole project in E-wrap. You can use U-wrap. A U-wrap is basically where you hold the yarn in front and just hold it back and then knit the bottom stitch over just with it held like that. You can, of course, if you're doing socks and you're working on a round loom, literally just pull the yarn all the way around like that, wrap it off, and then knit all of these up and over. But personally, I like to work in an E-wrap, but it's up to you. Try it both ways, see what you like. Some people prefer the U-wraps on socks because they think it's slightly more elastic. Again, up to you. Okay, so then once again, we're going to just E-wrap all the way around again. The yarn I'm using today is just acrylic yarn, actually, this one. I love working in real wool, but these socks are for my friend Kat, and basically she wants to be able to just chuck them in the washing machine without worrying about putting them on a special wool wash. So yeah, for socks and everyday items, I know working with sort of real wool and alpaca and silk and cotton is lovely. Cotton works quite well, actually. You could do this with cotton yarn, but occasionally for hardware and stuff like socks, acrylic does its job. Okay, and basically all we're going to do now, wrapped it off, is we are just going to take these the bottom stitches and knit them up and over. And we're going to go all the way around the circle, and when we've done a full one, this will be our first row. And then you're going to wrap them all the way around again and do a second row. And basically you're going to keep going until you have 25 rows. Now this sock length is kind of like a boot sock. It's a short boot sock, so it does up to sort of mid calf length, just under. It's like a high ankle length. If you want them longer, just add more rows. To be honest, if you want knee length ones, go for sort of 50. But yeah. And there we go. That's it. That's my first row, so I'm just going to mark that down. Now I'm going to keep going until I have 25. Okay, so I will meet you back here when you're up to 25. Okay, we've done our 25 rows and now we're going to work the heel. Okay, normally I fast through doing rows and stuff, but you know, you kind of need to see this bit from start to finish because it's not difficult, it's just keeping track of where you're up to. So, we've just finished a row and we are going to E-wrap the first 12 pegs, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just going to do that. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yay. Okay. So, we've got our 12 pegs. Now, what we're going to do, sorry, just pull your yarn around extra pegs or anything just to keep it tight because you're not going to wrap it on anything. So this is the last peg we've actually got wrapped. Ignore that, that's just where I've got the yarn pulled tight. There we go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to knit these over, but we're going to ignore the last one we wrapped, okay? So number 12 gets ignored. And we wrap over all of the other ones. All the way back. So now we have number 12 has 2 on. 12 has 2 on. All the rest are back down to 1 loop. Yeah. Now, what we're going to do this time is we're going to come back to this one. We're going to leave those 2 stitches on there and we're going to wrap back. Back to peg number 1. And again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to ignore the last peg we wrapped, which in this case is peg number 1. And we're going to knit over all of the others until we get back to the one on the other end with 2 loops, until we get back to number 12. So now what you should have is 1 peg at either end with 2 stitches on. Yeah. And a load with single stitches on in the middle. Yep, simple enough. Cool. Right. We're then going to wrap back again. Until we get to the one that already has 2 stitches on. And the same as we did last time, we're going to ignore this one and wrap the one next to it and knit the one next to it. So we now have 2 pegs with 2 stitches on this end. So 1 peg with 2 stitches on this end, 2 pegs with 2 stitches on this end, all the ones in the middle, single stitches. Yep. Cool. And now we're going to wrap back again. It's alright if this one's a bit loose because you have just got it round quite light, but that's fine. Just hold it in place. It's good. So once again, we're wrapping back. So we've got 2 with 2 stitches on, and we're wrapping back until we get to The one on the other end with 2 stitches on. Just that one. Yep, so I've wrapped to here. And then once again, I'm going to ignore the last one we wrapped, and we're going to knit the one next to it. So we now have 2 stitches on 2 pegs at this end as well. Okay, and just knit over all of the ones in the middle. So we now have 2 pegs with 2 stitches on at this end, and 2 pegs with 2 stitches on at this end, and all the ones in the middle with single stitches. And now, as you might have guessed, you can see the pattern starting to form here, can't you? We're going to wrap back again. Until we get to the 2 pegs with 2 stitches on. Yes? And then, once more, ignore the first one and start knitting the peg next to it. So we have 1, 2, 3 with 3 stitches on, and then knit these back down to single stitches. So this end has 2, this end has 3. Yep. And then we are going to again wrap back. Until we get to those pegs with double stitches. And now once again we're going to ignore this one, the last one we wrapped, and knit the one next to it. So we now have 3 double wrapped pegs at this end and 3 double wrapped pegs at the other end. Yeah? One, two, three. Okay, so at this point, just double check where you're up to. Again, this one is quite loosely wrapped, but that's fine. See, it does come off, but you just hold it in place. So we have 1, 2, 3 double wrapped at this end. All the ones in the middle have single stitches on, and then we have 1, 2, 3 double wrapped at that end. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 doubles, all singles, 1, 2, 3 doubled. Yep, cool. Right, that's the first half of the heel work. Now we've just got to get back down again. So what we do now is we once again double wrap. Sorry, not double wrap, but you know what I mean. Wrap the stitches back. Now, this time when we get to the double stitches, which are these 3 pegs here, the first one we come to, we're going to wrap a stitch on. And this is the first one you knit. So you take those 2 double stitches, both of them together, and you flick it up and over that single stitch, yeah? And then you're going to knit all the way back. So now you should have 2 double stitches on one end. Yep, and 3 double stitches on this end. So 1, 2, 3, that's fine. 1, 2, that works. Great. We're at the right place. And now what we do is, we don't wrap this one again. This is the, see we've got 1, 2, this is the first one we knitted on the last row. Just going to leave that there. We're going to A-wrap back. Once again, same as last time, when we get to the first double wrapped peg at this end, we're going to pop a stitch on it. Yeah? Again, we're going to make sure we have both of those double stitches just on that first peg. We're going to pull both of them up and over and then back along. So we now have 2 double wrapped on this end and 2 double wrapped on this end, yeah? So we're now down to 2 double wrapped on each end. Now, again, this was the first stitch of the last row, the one that we lifted the double stitch onto. I'm going to just leave that there and wrap back. And once again, when we get to the first double wrapped stitch, we're going to put a stitch on it. The first double wrapped peg rather. We're going to pop a stitch on it. So, same as last time, we're going to lift both of those stitches up and over that one we've just put on, yeah? And then knit back. So we now have 1 double stitched peg on this end. Oh, make sure you get both together. There we go. So we have 2 on this end and 1 on that end now, yeah? There you go, 1. And there's 2 on the other end. So, again, just ignoring that first one we did, just leaving that there. We're going to come back. And again, when we reach the first of the double looped ones, we're going to pop an extra stitch on it. And once again, lifting them both together up and over. So we now have 1 double stitched peg on this end and 1 double stitched peg on the other end. Nearly there. Okay. See, 1 double stitched peg there. And 1 double stitched there. Now, again, just ignoring that one that we just lifted the double loop onto, we're going to work it back. I'm going to take this all the way down to a final double stitched peg on this end. Yep. And again, both of them together, up and over. And work it back. Yep. Now we just have 1 double stitched peg on this end and no double stitched pegs on this end. These are all back down to single stitches now. So working from that one we just took the double stitch onto, we're going to come back and we are going to pick up the last of the double stitched pegs. Yes. So again, lifting them both together up onto that new single one and going all the way back. Okay, now all of our pegs are back to having single stitches on, and that is the heel done. Done. Cool. Now what you're going to do is and this is the only time you do this in the entire sock making process, is where you wrap the peg that you're currently working on. Normally you always go to the next one along, but in this case we're going to come around the back, so up and round, yeah, and then we're going to e-wrap a full circle. All 24 pegs, assuming I don't pop them off like that. All 24 pegs. Ta-da! Right. And then we're going to knit all of them like a normal row. Yep. And in fact, this is a normal row. What this is row number 1 of the foot bit of your sock. Okay. So you're going to go around and knit them all off. Don't worry if some of them feel a bit slack, it's just where you've been working the heel. Once, you know, you knit through it, the tension does kind of even itself up, as knitting tends to do, so that's fine. Okay. And that is the heel done, and the first row of the foot part of your sock. So you're going to mark that down on your little tally sheet. If you've got a stitch counter, you can put on your stitch counter as 1. And you're going to keep going until you have 21 rows, okay, on the foot part. You've already done 25, you've done the heel, and now you need 21. This size sock fits size sort of 4 to 6 UK adult shoe size. For every shoe size you go below that, drop a row. So if you're doing a 3, do 20 stitches. If you're doing a 2, do 19. And for every size you go over that, add a row. So if you're doing size 7, do 22. If you're doing 8, do 23. But if you're a size 4 to 6 UK shoe size, you want 21 rows. Okay, so go do that, and then I will meet you back here. Okay, we've done our 21 rows from the heel, which you can see there. And now what we need to do is just finish this off and put the toe in, basically. Just work the toe and then take it off the loom. So, in order to do this, we've done with 21 rows. What we're going to do is, starting from our first peg, is we're going to lift it off and we're going to move it over to the peg next to it. And we're going to leave 2 on there. We're going to come round, we're going to lift another one off and move it to the peg next to it. And we're going to continue to do this all the way around the loom. Make sure you catch both pieces of yarn. we go. Now, at this point, what you're going to do is you are going to go around and put a third stitch on each of the ones with the 2 on. So each one has 3 on. Should go around like that. Just the ones that I've already got the 2 stitches on. Just keep your yarn behind the ones in between. Yeah. Okay. Once you've done that, so you now have your stitches now go, or your pegs rather, now go empty peg, peg with 3, empty peg, peg with 3, all the way around. Just take the pegs with 3 on and lift the bottom 2 stitches up and over the top one. And last one. There we go. Okay, and just push those stitches down to the bottom. So now you have 1 stitch on every other peg. See? There we go. 1 stitch on every other peg. Cool. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just take our yarn and wrap it round a couple of times just to make sure we have a nice amount of working length. I'm going to cut that off. There we go. Now what you're going to do is take a big needle and what we're going to do is starting from there is we're going to run the needle down through the stitch and pull this tight and then bring it back in, go round to the next one, push it down and through and pull it tight, bring it back onto the next one, down through the next one, down through, and keep going down basically until you get all the way back to the beginning. And once you are back to the beginning, pull that off for now. Yep, and you've got that threaded around all of them. We're just going to start lifting off the sock. So literally just go around and flick those stitches off. Now you're going to take your sock. You're going to turn it inside out. And you're going to grab that end thread. That you just pull through all the stitches there. And you're just going to pull. Make sure it's pulled really tight. Yes, you get a nice tight toe in your socks. And then again, just take your needle and use it to tie a small knot. In the end of the work. And just make sure that knot is nice and tight. And just snip the end off. Then we're going to go back to the top of the work. And I've still got this end loose with my little slip knot in, so I'm just going to pull that slip knot out. And same as we did on the toe. I'm just going to, again, just tie a little knot to secure it. Again, just pull it nice and tight. And you can snip that top off. There we go. And just pull the sock in the right way. That is your finished sock. Now, if you've got colour change, well, like this, sometimes what happens is you get sort of, your socks don't quite match, but I quite like that. So yeah, one sock. And there's the friend, 2 socks. Pair of socks. Easy. Go out and make lots of socks. You'll never need to buy socks again. It's great. And they're really, really warm.